Season 3A of Amphibia has been interesting but divisive. Taking the action away from Amphibia itself and setting it on Earth was a bold choice, as it meant taking the show away from where it had spent all its time outside flashbacks. We were not eased into all this time on Earth. We were spending all our time in Amphibia, and then boom, just like that, we were stuck on Earth. I appreciate the ambition of that choice, though I'm not sure it necessarily worked. Whether that decision was the right one is questionable, but even for those who like the Earth episodes, I think there is a sense that there is a lot for the show to resolve before its finale, which is coming up distressingly quickly. The show has put itself in an awkward position wherein it has a lot of little plot points and character-based tensions to resolve in a short amount of time. Now, I am not one of those people who believes a show needs to wrap up every little story thread. If a few minor characters do not receive tidy conclusions, and if a few little mysteries aren't given satisfying answers, that's fine. There are more important things for a show to think about. Those being the characters, the relationships between the characters, the ideas that animate the story, and the main conflicts of the work. But there is quite a lot that the show does need to resolve in Season 3B, and I hope the show is able to do it in a way that will satisfy its fans and all its viewers. I personally believe it will be difficult for the show to resolve all these issues organically, considering the amount of time it has left, but I certainly hope it will. I believe in this show, and I want it to succeed. So here we go. Number 1, Marcy and Sasha's parents. Especially Marcy's parents. This is what has been plaguing me since the start of Season 3. I thought that with our protagonists on Earth, it would be the perfect time for them to visit Marcy and Sasha's families. And yet they didn't do that. Now, to the show's credit, there was a wonderful moment right at the end of Froggy Little Christmas wherein Anne finally writes letters to Marcy and Sasha's parents, perhaps setting up that the show is going to deal with that in the episodes that will come right after the hiatus in Season 3B, and I certainly hope this is the case. But it still is odd that the show was not willing to deal with this beforehand. It seemed like such an obvious point of tension if you're going to bring the action back to Earth. Anne comes back, her friends don't. Obviously, Marcy and Sasha's parents are going to be concerned. Or are they? I will say that I'm more interested in Marcy's parents than I am in Sasha's. Not that I think Marcy is a more interesting character than Sasha, I don't. And not that I think there is no value in drilling into Sasha's relationships with her parents, especially since Froggy Little Christmas implies her parents are divorced. Seeing how her parents view her would give us a greater understanding not only into the manipulative tendencies that she has been trying to shake for over 2 seasons now, but also into her constant desire to please, her yearning to prove herself to those she cares about in order to form strong and lasting relationships with them. Sasha cares deeply how others think of her. She wants desperately to be viewed not as the aggressor, not as some kind of cruel, callous person, and not even as an ordinary friend. She wants to be viewed as a just and moral and even heroic person. I think knowing more about her parents would help us better understand why that matters so much to her. But at the same time, I don't think we need as much about Sasha as we do about Marcy. Marcy's parents are at the crux of the show's conflicts. Marcy's parents had such an antagonistic relationship with Marcy that Marcy eventually broke and ran away, thus seeing the music box that Marcy believed would take them to other worlds, or at least she hoped it would, and she was right. If that relationship had been stronger and more tender and more full of love, perhaps the entire show would not have happened. So I do think that relationship and its deterioration is important to the show, and it should be something the show is willing to analyze and really drill into with the level of nuance and tenderness that the show has demonstrated it can express. I don't want her parents to be cardboard villains, but I do want the show to also convey a real understanding of why Marcy decided to leave. We've gotten inklings of that, but I like that emotional sense of Marcy's mental state expanded upon. I want a clearer picture of the dread and anxiety that caused her to not just want to leave, but also to not want to come back even 5 months later. Number 2, Marcy's relationship with the core, aka Darcy. This is a thread I am confident is going to receive some sort of resolution. The question is what sort of resolution it's going to be. While I originally expected Marcy's possession would drive the conflict with Season 3A and be over by the mid-season, that was based on an assumption that the show is going to alternate episodes between Amphibia and Earth, which I still think would have been the right decision. Because the action all took place on Earth instead, we did not get to spend a lot of time on Amphibia with Sasha and Marcy, and so those storylines were left much less developed. So Marcy's possession was only introduced as late as Olivia and Yunnan, and it is not anywhere close to being resolved. So I think resolving that conflict between Darcy and Anne and Sasha is going to be the main driving force of Season 3B. Darcy hasn't even met Anne and Sasha yet. They haven't had a chance to react to what's happened to their friend. There is a lot of fleshing out the show needs to do on Darcy and Darcy's conflict with our heroes. So that is probably going to be a main focal point of Season 3B. I hope we do indeed get a satisfying resolution. These possession plots are hard to do right. It's hard to make one that does not devolve into banalities, with the heroes just shouting, "I know you're in there!" incessantly at the possessed character. There's a lot more the show can and should do with this possession plot, and I am quite interested to see what direction it will take that plot. Number 3, more story for Sasha. Sasha is the character who originally got me invested in Amphibia. When I watched Reunion, I was just so mesmerized by the poignancy and devastation of Sasha's journey in that episode, to the point of complete despair. This is a person who cares about being the protector of her friends, of being the one who's always there to support them and guide them, even though she lacks a sort of understanding of her friends and always comes off as kind of self-important and arrogant and manipulative when that is not at all her intention. She's charismatic and committed and strategic, but she's also a broken and flawed person who does not really have any clear understanding of what she wants. This should be the setup for a fascinating character journey, and yet Season 3 has featured her in a grand total of 1 episode so far. Now, there have been rumblings that she is going to play a more important role in Season 3B, and I don't doubt that. And even the 1 episode we got of her, Turning Point, was one of the better ones in Season 3. But it seemed more like an outline of a journey and a conflict than a journey properly defined. I want to see more inner conflicts for Sasha. She's so afraid of losing her connections with the people she loves the most, and in her desperation, she can push people away. She has this in common with Marcy, as different as they are personality-wise. I want to see her handle her desire for control and her fear of loss in a way that is true and honest to the jagged, complicated person she's always been. 4. The trio reunites and talks. This is what I'm most afraid of. I have a fear that the show is just going to basically end after the defeat of Darcy and the freeing of Marcy, and that there's not going to be any real resolution to the conflicts between the 3 friends, other than an expressed desire for them to remain friends. Now, I want them to remain friends, but I also see the fractures that have formed in their friendship, and I want them to have to deal with that and really think about how their relationship is going to evolve as they grow older. The best parts of Amphibia have never been between our comically evil villains and our earnest, hardworking heroes, but rather the quieter and more intimate conflicts between those heroes. And I hope these softer conflicts are really given the space to breathe and develop and be resolved in a way that's true to who these characters are. So anyway, thank you all for watching. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Donate to my Patreon if you can and you want to see more videos like this. Keep watching Amphibia. What do you want to see in Season 3B? There are so many fascinating conflicts that really need to be resolved between these characters especially, and internally with these characters. There are a lot of these fascinating points of tension and drama that really should be developed, and I can't wait to see what the show does. I still have confidence in it. Anyway, tune in soon for my next analysis. It will be coming soon. Thank you all again. Adios, comrades.